I remember the night they took her, and the memory is carved into me like a scar that will never heal. Our colony was quiet, nothing but the low hum of power lines and the soft rustle of the desert winds moving across the dust plains. I was standing outside, watching the twin moons climb higher, their pale glow spilling silver across the settlement. It should have been an ordinary night, the kind where you breathe deep and feel grateful to be alive. But then the sky bent. Not cracked, not split, bent, as though something pressed down against reality itself. A ship appeared where there had been nothing. No thrusters, no sound, no warning, just an enormous shape blotting out the stars. Its surface shimmered like liquid metal, colors sliding off it as though light itself refused to stay. The air around me felt heavy, pressing into my chest until I could barely breathe. Figures descended in silence, pale, elongated, eyes too dark to belong to anything kind. They moved with fluid precision, not fast but unstoppable, like nightmares walking through fog. They didn't come for supplies or weapons. They didn't search the homes. They went straight for her, Elara. She didn't scream at first. She was confused, reaching for me as they pulled her away, her face shifting from disbelief to terror in seconds. I shouted, I fought, I fired until my rifle overheated, but their skin rippled like water, absorbing everything I threw at them. They didn't even slow down. And then she was gone. Lifted into the ship's belly, the hull folding around her like the mouth of some ancient beast. I dropped to my knees as the vessel vanished, leaving only silence behind. That was the night my world ended. And the night my hunt began. Time lost its meaning after they took her. Days bled into weeks, and weeks into months, each one spent chasing rumors across the fringes of human space. I sold what little I had, bartered, begged, and fought my way onto ships that went places civilized people never dared to travel. Every whisper mattered. Every fragment of overheard conversation was a possible lead. Traders spoke of black sites where abducted humans vanished. Smugglers mentioned a drifting fortress, an installation with no fixed coordinates, appearing and disappearing across systems like a ghost. They called it the labyrinth. Some said it was a research facility, others said it was a slaughterhouse. No one agreed on the details, but they all agreed on one thing: once you went in, you didn't come back. I should have turned away then, but I couldn't. Not when Elara's face still haunted my every moment. She was alive. I could feel it. That certainty was the only thing keeping me breathing. I joined a smuggler crew under Captain Dayran, a man with more scars than mercy. He thought I was just another desperate fool looking to escape the law. I let him think that. All I cared about was finding a ship that could follow shadows. For months, we ran cargo across war zones, bribed officials, and slipped past patrols. I learned the underworld's language, learned how to drink poison without flinching and how to trade lies for truth. And then, in a stinking den on Harkonnen 9, I overheard the words that froze me solid. Two reptilian traders whispering in hushed tones, they're testing regeneration on a human female. Subject shows impossible adaptation. I didn't need to hear her name. I knew. It was Elara. The labyrinth had her. And I was going to get her back. When I finally saw her again, I almost convinced myself it wasn't her. The labyrinth was a nightmare of steel corridors and flickering lights, every shadow whispering of pain, every wall stained with the memory of screams. I had crawled through vents, slipped past patrols, and killed silently when I had to, my heart pounding with the single hope of finding her alive. But when the cell door hissed open and I stepped inside, the figure that turned to face me didn't look like the sister I remembered. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dim light, not with color but with a soft silver radiance, as though starlight itself had taken root inside her. Veins shimmered along her arms and neck like liquid metal pulsing beneath her skin. She looked thinner, harder, her face sharper than I remembered, but her presence filled the room with something impossible. Not fragility, not fear. Power. Elara. My voice cracked on her name. For a heartbeat she didn't answer, just stared at me with eyes that weren't entirely human anymore. Then her lips trembled, and I heard her whisper back, "They tried to break me." I wanted to run to her, to hold her, to protect her. But as I moved closer, the reinforced wall behind her bore deep cracks, like someone had slammed steel fists into it over and over until the metal buckled. She wasn't chained because she didn't need to be. Chains couldn't hold her anymore. They thought they were making a weapon, she said, her voice steady now, almost frightening in its calm. But I'm not theirs. I'll never be theirs. In that moment I understood. She hadn't been destroyed. She had been remade. And the universe had no idea what it had unleashed. We moved through the labyrinth like shadows, but it wasn't stealth that carried us forward, it was her. Elara didn't hesitate, didn't stumble, didn't look back. The corridors trembled beneath her fury. The first squad of guards that tried to stop us never stood a chance. They came armed with plasma rifles, their armor glinting in the sterile light, but Elara met them with her bare hands. One swing sent a soldier crashing into the wall so hard the metal caved in. Another tried to fire, only for the weapon to warp and spark as she wrenched it from his grip. I fired too, but compared to her, my efforts felt almost insignificant. She was a storm, and I was just clinging to its edge. I wasn't protecting her anymore. She was protecting me. The deeper we went, the more it became clear this wasn't just an escape. Surveillance drones hovered above us, lenses unblinking, recording everything. I caught glimpses of figures behind glass observation panels, scientists, or whatever passed for scientists among them, watching, scribbling, analyzing every move she made. Elara, I hissed, pulling her close after we broke through another checkpoint. They're not trying to stop us. They're studying you. Her eyes flickered, that silver glow brightening for a moment. Then let them watch, she said coldly. Let them see what they created. When we reached the hangar, alarms screamed, red lights pulsing against steel walls. Rows of ships lined the docking bay, but I realized something too late. The guards weren't forming defensive lines, they were retreating. Not from me. From her. The truth hit me like a punch to the gut. They weren't trying to keep us locked inside. They were terrified of letting her leave. Because whatever she had become, they knew they could never contain it again. Life back in human space should have felt like victory, but instead it felt like holding my breath, waiting for the air to run out. Elara was home, but she wasn't the same. At night I'd hear her whispering in her sleep, words in languages no human throat should know. Sometimes her skin would shimmer faintly under the moonlight, the veins of silver flaring like lightning beneath the surface. Once, when she cut her palm on a shard of glass, I watched the wound close within seconds, the skin knitting itself back together as though nothing had happened. She looked at me with frightened eyes, but I pretended not to notice. I couldn't let her see the fear flickering inside me. For a while, we tried to live quietly. But the universe doesn't forget its mistakes. The fleet came without warning, dozens of alien warships blotting out the sky above our colony. They didn't open channels or make demands. They weren't here to negotiate. They were here to reclaim their experiment. Panic erupted. Families fled underground shelters as fire rained from the skies. I dragged Elara toward cover, but she pulled free of my hand. She walked into the center of the settlement, her hair whipping in the storm of burning air, her glowing eyes fixed on the heavens. The first salvo hit, explosions tearing through the earth, shockwaves throwing dust and flame into the air. When the smoke cleared, she was still standing. Unharmed. Then she raised her hand. The air around her rippled, and the enemy's flagship shuddered, metal groaning as if crushed by invisible fists. In a single, terrible moment, the ship split apart, collapsing into itself before erupting in a silent blaze of light. I stared at her, my heart hammering. I didn't know whether to be proud or afraid. The story of what happened on our colony spread faster than any fleet could travel. Word carried on smuggler channels, pirate relays, even intercepted military transmissions. They called her the Starborn, the Silver Flame, the human weapon. To us, she was just Elara. But to the galaxy, she had become something else, something no empire, no council, no warlord could ignore. Humans whispered her name like a prayer. Colonists who had felt abandoned by Earth saw her as proof that we weren't helpless, that no matter how small we seemed in the vastness of space, there was a strength inside us waiting to awaken. To the alien powers who had once considered us little more than cattle, she was a nightmare in the shape of a girl. I heard entire fleets changed course upon hearing rumors she might be near. For the first time in history, the predators of the galaxy looked over their shoulders. But Elara didn't bask in it. She didn't care about fame or fear. She wanted revenge. She wanted every lab torn down, every captive freed, every alien who had touched her life's blood to regret the day they laid eyes on humanity. And I, her brother, couldn't abandon her, even as the fire in her eyes grew darker. We struck their facilities one by one. Where others saw fortresses, she saw fragile cages. Their weapons evolved, trying to counter her, but she adapted faster. Blades that cut through armor dulled against her skin. Energy blasts dissipated as if the air itself bent to shield her. She was learning with every battle, becoming something more with every strike. And with each victory, I realized a terrifying truth. They hadn't just created a weapon. They had set evolution loose, and it bore a human face. Now, as I look back on everything we've endured, I realize the universe still doesn't understand what it unleashed the day they experimented on her. Elara is no longer just my sister, she has become a force of nature, a living embodiment of human will and defiance. She moves through the stars like a storm, untouchable, unstoppable, leaving entire fleets in ruin without so much as raising her voice. But even in her immense power, she remains profoundly human. Her rage is tempered by mercy when it counts, her heart refuses to harden completely, and her eyes, those glowing silver eyes, still hold the warmth of the girl who once laughed beneath the twin moons of Vera 4. The galaxy has tried to label her a weapon, a monster, a harbinger of doom, but labels cannot contain her. She is proof of something greater, that humanity, even in its weakest and most fragile moments, can rise to defy every force that seeks to suppress it. Every system that once thought humans were insignificant has learned, too late, that we are resilient beyond comprehension, capable of evolution not just in body but in spirit. I have watched her stand against entire armadas, felt the tremor of her power when she bends reality around her, and seen the terror she instills in those who thought they could dominate us. And I have never been more certain of one thing: the universe was never ready for her. Yet she does not fight for conquest or glory. She fights for us, for every human who has been enslaved, hunted, or underestimated. When she speaks, her voice carries not just command, but the weight of our defiance. You thought you could use me. You thought you could control me. But I am human. And that means I will never kneel. The universe made a mistake when it experimented on her. But humanity will endure. And the cosmos will remember why we are never to be underestimated.